Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 246 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast. I think it's important to start off this week with two memes that I just love. One is of a very contented cat. This is a drawing, and I wish I could draw like this. I just love this image. And it says the B-E-R months are coming. September, October, November, December. Now, I had to put that up because we are in the dog days of summer. And I think it's a great joke that this is about the cat days of autumn. But I also feel it necessary to point out, because I am a nerd, a language nerd, that of course when you take the burrs out of these months, they are the Latin words for 7, 8, 9, and 10, which just shows you one last gasp in the English language of Latin, which leads to the next meme. I don't know who posted this, but I couldn't resist it. It says, English is what happens when the Vikings learn Latin and they use it to shout at Germans, and then the French shout back. I haven't stopped to track that historically, but I think it's hilarious. Okay, don't take it too seriously. In the meantime, your comments are always welcome. Please feel free to comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on our group on Ravelry. In the meantime, let's get into the warm thanks. First, Knitting Hiker. Thank you for letting me know that I had not yet posted the notes for episode 245 over on Ravelry. I simply forgot, which surprises me not a little bit, because I was doing everything last minute on that one, and there are so many mistakes in that episode. Oy vey. So I don't know if I can even fix them all, but thank you anyway. I did post the notes. Thank you also for a very timely comment about the need for community more than ever, and thank you for reminding me what the strategy should be for this week. Turbo Gal suggested an automatic feeder for Minerva due to her weight problem. That is, Turbo Gal was very polite and diplomatic and said that this helped her cat. So I don't know why I didn't think of that. So there should be one sitting out on my front patio delivered from Amazon today, although I have not heard the delivery so far. And the problem with that, of course, is Minerva recently peed in the middle of the bed. This was what is this? This, as I record this, by the way, it is Tuesday evening at 6:50 p.m. on August 12th. So this must have been Sunday night. Fortunately, there is a mattress cover over my mattress. And so she only got one sheet and the mattress cover, both of which I washed immediately with soap and enzymatic cleaner. So they're back on the bed smelling just fine. But why she did that, I think because she was locked in and her food was almost empty. And this is Minerva. And so when I told my husband, Turbo Gal, that I got us an automatic feeder for her, he burst out laughing and said, get used to changing the sheets. She's going to be angry. We'll find out. But if it helps her to drop a little weight, I would really like that. In the meantime, it was really nice to hear from DC Elaine Knits as always. And she questioned my use of the phrase, the first doctorate, and said perhaps I should tell the path I used to get here. Elaine, you'd never believe it. Lately, I've been thinking, to quote a better poet than myself, what a long, strange trip it's been. At this point, I think the total is 5 masters, 2 doctorates, 3 undergrad degrees, 1 with honors, and I speak or read or sign and understand 10 languages. Because language is so amazing to me. I can never get over the wonder of understanding another culture through its language. It is an endless fascination. The only thing that compares to it in my world is human physiology, which to me, mammalian physiology, is just an ongoing set of miracles. Now then, I'd also like to thank, remember we are in the warm thanks here, the people signing up for CFR 11. Got another one today. Would like a few more kids. And please let me know if you're staying at the hotel, because I'm trying to find out if we can get that discount rate. I also want to thank my community on Finch, on Reddit, on the ground in the Santa Clarita Valley, and especially in this group. And you can see my two Finches, they were spending a long weekend in Paris together last week. So you can see one of them is in a kilt. She was in Edinburgh. She has since moved on. Where did I send her? She's in Taipei for a few days. I just sent her there to send her there for 5 or 6 days. Then I'm going to stick her somewhere longer term to enjoy the rest of the summer. Meanwhile, Cognitive Fiber Retreat 11, all the information, the link is right there where the word here is in bright blue and underlined. This will take you to the information thread on Ravelry for CFR 11. Yes, I do have a hotel reservation. No, you are not paying for it. Please remember, you have to PayPal me $10 to get on the list. And I think it's Marianne just signed up, and I apologize. I haven't had a chance to add you as I record this. Hopefully I will add you tonight or tomorrow. Payment is due when you register. It is not refundable, but it's $10, you know. And anybody can sign up at this point. Meanwhile, what is on my hooks and needles? Well, I finished another emotional support chicken. She's also in purples. And I had a revelation, and that is these things are eating up my leftover minis and sock yarn stash. These are all in sock yarn. I'm so happy about this. I have my entire remaining stash sitting on my desktop as I record this, and it's divided into color families, and I just plan to make like 4 or 5 more chickens. And I'm hoping this will take me through that stash, which makes me happy, because I feel bad when I knit socks now because I have so much leftover sock yarn. And instead of knitting stripy socks, I just said I want to make these chickens, and they're a blast. I am currently knitting a blue one, and this thing is in a nightmare combination of colors compared to the other ones. But I am enjoying it immensely. There is the new one. She is named Wednesday after Wednesday Addams. I will come back to that. But she's in dark colors, and she looks a lot like Senator Elizabeth Warren. In fact, I can tell them apart by their tails. Their bodies have very, very similar coloring patterns, and I love that. I just love having my 2 purple ESCs. There you can see Wednesday greeting the rest of the flock. A little hard to pick them all out, but there should be 7 on that desk. And then, of course, well, once you bring Wednesday into the flock, of course, I walked in, and there they were telling ghost stories. You can see that in the 3rd picture. So, yeah, thanks, Wednesday. She's introduced a whole new thematic stance to my flock, and as a result, they're sitting on the desk, and my little Wooble black cat, Minerva, is sitting next to them, as should be if we're telling ghost stories. Now, in progress, the stash toss is at 56 in, 30 out. No new yarn, but it was close this weekend. I haven't worked on the big projects, not any of the sweaters, but what I did do was, you can see the alfresco, which is a shell made in a cotton yarn from Queenslander Yarns. Queensland Yarns. It's a beautiful yarn, and the picture doesn't do it credit. It's white speckled with oranges and greens, and it's so pretty. At any rate, there I am, and all I'm doing is making 2 rectangles. This week I seamed the shoulders, and I did not finish it the way that the pattern suggests. I just seamed the shoulders as they were. I did not add half doubles and then seam those. I was using the heathered half double crochet stitch, which I learned on another project, and I just love. I learned it on the September sweater, in fact. And so I did that, and I then started working around the sides. I evened out the sides and seamed them, and when I got them roughly where I wanted them to be, then I evened them out because one side was slightly shorter than the other, and then I started working in the round. So I'm working in the round down the body now. When I finish that, I will go back and edge the sleeves and probably the neckline with something a little more decorative. I got a slight poofy look on the sleeves that I'm hoping the edging and a little more seaming will flatten out. So that's going to be fairly close fitting, but my guess is once I block it, it's going to loosen up. Once I steam it, because it's cotton, it should loosen a bit. I like it. I like the fit as it is. Whether I get a looser fit, a boxier fit, or stay with that, I'll be fine. But that one is coming right along. I'm really pleased with that. Meanwhile, you may remember I got caught up doing the lacy summertime shrug from Lion Yarns. And I'd done 2 of these before, and I tried to explain last time how to make it work. And I have to say, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to try again. I'm sorry, because I think last week I just bollocksed it up. All right. What you're supposed to do is crochet a rectangle. Okay, and you're chaining across the short side of the rectangle. And that means you're going to have that edge is going to be short. And then you are going to make the rectangle the same length as from almost your elbow on one arm across your back to almost the elbow on the other arm. That will be the long side, okay? Now the problem with this for me, when you do it this way, you're doing this lovely shell alternating with V-stitch patterns. And when you do it that way, which is the way the pattern does it, okay, you're chained on the short side and you're increasing, and you're going to always go no farther than that short side. Okay, that's the wide. In other words, you're crocheting across on the short edge. And so you're going to make it pretty long because you have to crochet for the entire width of your back and upper arms. And that will be your long edge. And then you fold it in half. And if you're paying attention, what you just realized is you are turning that lovely shell pattern sideways to do this. I don't like that. And so every time I've made this, and I've made it 3 times, well, I'm in the middle of the 3rd one on the lacy summertime shrug in the blue Noro. I don't like the direction it's done. So I end up doing it rotated 90 degrees. That is, to preserve that shell and V-stitch pattern, I will just do a rectangle that covers my back, not the arms. Okay? I do it so I'm chaining across the long side, and I am crocheting these long, long rows, but I'm only doing it for the depth from the base of my neck down to the upper back. Okay? So in other words, that's going to be something like 8 inches. But I'm doing very long rows. And what I'm doing are these long rows of the alternating shells and V's. So that way I fold it in half to make it go around my arms, except I don't. But that's what I thought I was going to be doing. And what's happening is I don't cover my arms. This just goes from the cap of my shoulder to the cap of the other shoulder, the very top of the shoulder. Okay? And what happens is when you see this on my back, you see the beautiful V and shell pattern, and you see it oriented so you can recognize what it is. And I really like that. This is rotated 90 degrees from what the actual original pattern is telling you to do. So what about those sleeves, Gemma? Well, what I do, when I get that piece finished, then I fold the short sides just enough to connect them, and I double crochet around this, and this time I did 10 rows. And I do basically double crochet sleeves in 10 rows. The last time I did this, I did fewer than 10 rows, and I wanted to try longer, and I'm glad I did. Okay, so when that is done, I have a sleeve and double crochet attached to this long rectangular back, and then on the other side, another sleeve coming off the other side. Okay, and then I will take my yarn, and I will do a shell stitch around the outer edge of the sleeve, and then I will go back and do a shell stitch around the opening that goes around the neck and body of this. Okay, so that's how I'm doing this. However, that one's almost finished, that blue one in the blue Noro. So I started another one in a different Noro. It's a slightly different blend. I forget the makes, but you can look it up in the show notes. This one I thought was going to be primarily like purple and lavender. It turns out it's alternating stripes of soft gray. I think there might even be a little white, and then a pale lavender, and then dark blue. This thing is really pretty. So this one I decided to actually do it the way Lion wants you to do it. That's a little awkward because I don't fit Lion's measurements. I am an older woman and a bit bigger, and this is more for a younger figure. However, I'm going to give that a try. What worries me then is there will be no double crochet sleeves. That I'm just going to have a big rectangle and fold it, and part of those will go around my arms as sleeves when I seam it, and part of it will go across my back. To me, this looks like it's going to make a very loose sleeve, But we'll see how this works out. But I just want to give it a try. And I bought these yarns at the little knittery, and I just wanted to buy light, pretty, summery cotton yarns. And I have to say, I'm deeply enjoying making these shrugs on the train. No work on the quilting this week. Dizzy Blondes. There's a picture of the completely finished persimmon colored project. This is the persimmon BFL from Lisa Souza. This is the 2 braids of the camel hair silk that I got from, I can't remember who, months ago, but it's in the show notes. And what I did, I have a few skeins that are just the persimmon, and then I've got a big happy skein of a mix, 2 plies of the camel hair silk against 1 ply of the persimmon, and I really like how that came out, very muted. And then I've got 1 skein of nothing but the camel hair silk triple plied. So I don't know what I'm going to make out of these. I think I've got a total probably around 400 yards there. So it's not quite big enough to get a vest out of. And I thought, I could just go with something like a nice hunter green or a nice medium purple and do a vest, add a yarn. We'll see. I'm still tossing this around. I have not yet cataloged them, so I don't know how they affect the stash toss. All of this was done on the Electric Eel 6.1. Let's get on to a strategy. And my strategy, and this, as I said earlier, is a tip of the hat to our own knitting hiker who talked about the need for community, especially now. And I've had 2 patients freaking out over the latest political events in Washington, D.C. And I had to sort of ground them, and I had to ground myself. It is getting very ugly out there. And I'm just going to take deep breaths on that and say, tip of the hat to Knitting Hiker, because really, in this situation, you have to reconnect. That now more than ever, it is time to reconnect with your own community, to get to know the people around you, to get to know the people you can count on to come together with the people who have like-minded ideas with yourself. Now, this is very challenging. Let's just say there's been a lot of weirdness about how a deeply polarized group of Americans are supposed to get along with each other. And everybody has expressed just about every kind of opinion on this. What I'm going to say is find your tribe and connect to them. Okay? However you resolve what you want to do with people who have completely opposing politics to you, I'm not going to go there because that divides families. It's very, very painful. But however you're going to do that, please find your tribe. Please find the people who believe what you believe and hang with them. Try to be around them. Try to talk to them. Try to be, listening to them. Try to hear this, because it is too easy right now to get overwhelmed by all this divisiveness and crazy. And I'm not going to talk about national healing and all that stuff. I think that we're not there. We're not there. Okay? What I'm going to say is connect with your people and stick together. And that means that really we have this fashion of talking about ourselves as introverts. That's not going to be a good idea. There are people, and I'm one of them, who will socialize less. The reason I socialize less is pretty straightforward. I talk to people for 30 hours a week in the course of my job. So when I come home, I don't want to hang out with a lot of people for the simple reason that I've been doing it for a living, for my profession. But what I would tell you is it is time to find your tribe. It's time to find the people you agree with and get together with them and get solid with them, okay? So it is time to reconnect. It is time to rejoin your community as best you can. And it's also time to be an active voice in your community. If you're in a community and there is dissent in the ranks and you think, should I speak up? The answer is you should, because one of the things I have learned over and over again, when I have spoken with the voice of dissent, I've always been astonished that there were quite a lot of people around me who agreed with me. It's the silence that is dangerous. And if you're going to find your people and you're going to reconnect with them, then you have to speak out. You have to let people know where you are and what you believe in, okay? But when I talk about reconnect, I also mean beneath the political level. I mean, get your hobbies back. I have all these people who tell me, oh, I'm scared to go out. It's a scary world out there. No, it's not. It's really quite safe where I am and most of the people I'm talking to. Okay, yes, I'm not going to deny there's unsafe areas, but I think you have to be careful. There is a monologue of danger in the United States that is not accurate, that we're being encouraged to be afraid because that furthers the political gains of certain people, okay? The answer is I'm in my 60s. I am routinely treated and sometimes even dismissed as just a sweet little old lady. Boy, they don't know me if they think I'm sweet. That's okay, but I am traveling all over the LA region. I've gone all the way down to the coast, down to Long Beach. I've passed through some very questionable neighborhoods on the buses and on the underground trains. And it's been a wonderful experience, okay? Please do not buy into this. Please get out. Please meet people. Please be friendly. Please be connected. Please, if you are in a hobby or a craft, try to find a group of like-minded people. And if you can't find one, make one. We just opened a local coffee shop down in a neighboring town to us, and they have a Western theme. And I thought, I am going to take my flock of chickens, post myself at a table with some knitting and crocheting, and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see if people want to learn to knit or crochet, if I can start a group there. And I'm also going to see if they want to sell my chickens. Because I thought it would be pretty fun to put the flock on sale. Not all of you girls, they're looking a little nervous. I'm going to obviously keep the big Karen chicken because she's from a kit. And she's in memoriam to my late friend Karen. But I'm looking at the others. I have one big crochet chicken, Bella, and I'm likely to keep her. But, I love the others. But I think it might be time to move them along. I'd like to move my Woobles along. And that's okay. I'll be bringing them to the CFR as a giveaway for kids, I suspect. The point is, get out there and reconnect. And it doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be all that personal. But it is a time to bring people together. It is a time to meet people and to show people that we're still humans and we still can get along. And it is important because the welfare of the community is the welfare of the individual. To say that the individual is more important than the community is a terrific mistake. By the way, yes, it's true. The old Star Trek movies tried to explore this logic. But they failed in one respect, and that is Spock dies saying the community is more important than the individual. When Kirk manages to resurrect him, they give all the credit to Kirk, and there's Kirk saying, see, sometimes the individual is more important than the community. What Kirk's getting wrong is Kirk uses the community to rescue Spock. The community is the loyal crew of the Starship Enterprise who realize the world is better with Spock in it. Bringing Spock back strengthens the community. I'm just going to say that because when we take care of the community, we are taking care of the individual. But you have to make a community to take care of a community. And there are so many things to come together around. We can meet in groups in the libraries for our hobbies or to read. We can have reading groups. We can also have groups to help the poor, to feed the poor, to clothe the poor, to collect food for the poor. There's just a ton of things. We can have groups in our schools where parents volunteer to teach kids in school all sorts of things, including knitting and crocheting and useful crafts that should not be allowed to die. We can have groups to teach sewing, hand sewing, embroidery, quilting, building birdhouses, woodworking, repairing spinning wheels. I could go on forever. People are eager for this. When people talk about being lonely and bored, it's because we are not doing this the way we used to. It's time to reconnect. Oh, shoot. Last weekend, I dedicated to Los Feliz. I was going to go up to the Griffith Observatory. I didn't make that. The heat was oppressive, and I kept going there and getting squashed by it. However, on Saturday, I went down to Hollywood. The Magic Bus, the 217 or the 180, they're both Magic buses. Why? They both run, I don't understand this, very similar routes. They go from the tourist trap places in Hollywood, that is, I would say that starts at Hollywood and Highland, and goes east to Vermont. And then you go north and you're in Los Feliz. And then these same buses go up through Glendale, which, if you get off and go a few blocks, you're at the Galleria and the wonderful plaza there. Or you can stay on the buses and go all the way down the main drag of Pasadena. It is so much fun. There's so much to see just on these two stupid bus routes. Okay, so I did go out and do a bit of Hollywood. And I also decided to walk the Hillhurst area in Los Feliz because one of my guidebooks says you should. Yeah, so let's come back to that. But you can see also my links for donating your used running shoes. And I want to point out that this weekend, by the time you hear this, I probably will have run the Mountain Gallop. My son is going to run it with me. I will be leaving Thursday morning, going up, picking up our race packets. I will spend Thursday at the hotel seeing patients. The boys come up on Friday. They have orders to stay away from the hotel room so I can see patients. Saturday, we do the run. And they should have a little crafts fair in Tehachapi, and we hopefully will wander that, have a nice lunch, eat from the Red House, the barbecue, until we all explode. Okie dokie. Having said that, gosh, after the Mountain Gallop, we're all the way up to Be the Light already in September. How time does fun when you're having a good flight. It has been a lousy running week because of the heat. That's all I can say. In the fluffy books, who really cares? I'm going to run the race. We'll let it go. In the fluffy books, I finished reading and listening to A Pirate's Life for Tea. The last book in the series came out today, and this is called Alchemy and a Cup of Tea. I had pre-ordered it, so I have both the text version, the PDF version, and the Audible version. So that's nice. I'm going to start listening to that. In the meantime, I was listening to the end of To You at the Altar. To You at the Altar is the third book in the series. So it's You Can't Spell Treason. No, it's just called Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, followed by A Pirate's Life for Tea, followed by To You at the Altar, and today Alchemy and a Cup of Tea came out. This is the Tomes and Teas series by Rebecca Thorne. These are sapphic in their nature, but not graphic. However, be careful. Some of the short stories in them can be a little graphic. I deeply, deeply have enjoyed them. In the meantime, I did stock up on the other books in the Emily Wilde series. This is by Heather Fawcett, I believe. More on those next week. Something I really like, Wednesday on Netflix. Yeah, I gorged on it. 4 hours of it last week. I enjoyed it. It took me a little while to warm up to it this time. I felt like they did a lot to show you where the characters from the last series are these days. And I was not thrilled in the beginning because they're a little over-involved with one of those monster characters. I really would have been happy not to have him come back, but they used him quite well. I will say, the series is in 2 parts. Each part is 4 hours. They mounted the first 4 hours. There is a definite break between parts. The first 4 hours were quite good. They really were quite good. I'm intrigued by the guy who is the new headmaster of the school. There is an amazing list of guest stars in this. Amazing. I don't want to give away the surprises, so I won't say it, but I was truly impressed. And just when I thought they can't wheel out one more winner, they wheeled out Wednesday's grandmother, and I was delighted to see who they chose. Talk about insanely good casting. Meanwhile, something else I really like is the mattress topper that I have on my bed that Minerva desecrated this week. And I ran it through the washer with just a nice, healthy washing powder. I get an organic powder and a biodegradable and also enzymatic cleaner. It came out great. It ran through the dryer and fluffed up beautifully. So there is the link to that mattress topper. I did order a spare because if Minerva's going to make a habit out of this, I have to basically keep changing that. We're going to see. I don't know why she did it. Sometimes cats do it if they're having a bladder problem. I don't think that was it. It seemed like she was angry at me. In the meantime, however, I did give you the link to it. And the link is to Amazon. That's where I originally got it from. I apologize. For Project Proton, you can find the back episodes. There is the link for episodes 181 to 242 of the original series. They will remain up for the month of August, at which point I will start processing and compressing the episodes, zipping them, really, from the new series. And hopefully I'll take that up to about episode 240 and have those backed up too. I'm backing them up for my purposes, so I might as well share them with you. Put a lid on it, nothing new except my Ninja Creamy does have a tendency to get stuck in the shakes I am making out of the very thick shakes, the protein shakes from Keto Chow. However, I am still having a really good time with that. The winners in the flavors so far, chocolate malt is the undisputed winner. It is a very forgettable shake, but when you make it into ice cream, it's really great. The other forgettable that's amazing as ice cream is blackberry. Blueberry pie is pretty good too. Okay, those are the great ones. Lemon meringue is forgettable. Orange cream is meh. And chocolate is just standard good. Vanilla, no. All right, also I continue to carry the electrolyte drink Ketorade. I'll be making that up to take with us for this weekend. In the blather, well, the beloved son is 19 years old. So we turned him loose at last on public transit. That is, he traveled with me a few weeks ago down to Glendale. We went by train and by bus to the Galleria. He got to see how everything worked. And LA is wonderful because once you buy a train ticket on the Metrolink, you buy a day pass now. That's how they're managing it. There's no more different fares for different stations. It's just one day pass. You can do this on your phone and just show your phone, and they'll scan the code on your phone, or you can go and buy paper tickets still at the station. However, the day pass for the entire LA basin, which takes you almost down to San Clemente, almost to San Diego, the entire basin, $10. Anywhere you want to go, all day long. If you are over, I don't know if it's 62 or 65, $5. So you can't beat this, but wait, it gets better. The ticket also gives you a free ride on virtually any bus in the region. There is one it may not, I have not checked, and that would be the Dash buses in Glendale. However, on those, you use a tap card, and if you're over 62, 35 cents instead of 50 cents. You just can't lose. These are all on your phone. And I highly recommend if you're in this area, you look into it. If you travel here, you should look into it. So now that my son learned these things, he suddenly announced that he wanted to go down to the Science Center in Exposition Park near USC. And we let him go. And he took himself down there. You can see we used the Find My app and found him. And he was exactly where he said he would be. And he had a blast. And he got to go out there by himself. And he had a really good experience. He likes riding the train. He now pretty routinely takes his bike on the train and he starts up here in the desert and he takes the bike down to Santa Clarita and gets off right next to the bike paths, which are great down there. And he rides all over the place. And he can stop at McDonald's and have a cold drink if he wants, have lunch and all that. He has a really good time doing this. So, yeah, he is now running loose on public transit, which is really, really nice, as long as we have a vague idea where he is. Meanwhile, on Saturday, I took myself down the 217 and 180 bus route towards Hollywood. And I got off at Hollywood and Highland, which, if it sounds familiar to you Angelinos, that is also a stop on the underground on the red line, the B line, I think it is. B as in boy. And that's good because I took the bus down. I first went to Los Feliz and I had a break in Los Feliz. I can't remember what I did. I didn't have lunch, did I? No, I don't think I did. I think I just stopped in Los Feliz and got off and walked. Oh, I went into the Little Nittery and bought a hook because I'd left my hook at home. So I stopped in Little Nittery and then I picked up the bus again and I went down to Hollywood and Highland. And when I was there, I took a picture. If you go to the mall there, they have a balcony that is specifically set up to face the Hollywood sign. So tourists get to see the Hollywood sign. It's a very nice touch, brilliant piece of architecture. There's a picture of the mall. It is huge. And so I waited to take a picture. And I found that if I put myself in the picture, my camera would white out the Hollywood sign. So you can see what I did if you pay attention. I took a picture of myself with the Hollywood sign whited out. Then I took the same picture without me in it. and I used the sticker function on my phone to put me in the picture with the Hollywood sign. So there you can see me doing that. I had a brilliant time because I stopped in on the third story. They have an exhibit called 3D CG, as in 3-dimension CGI. And they used it to do close-up scans and represent in 3D these treasures from Japanese art. They were amazing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but in some ways it was better than seeing the real thing because they had controls, like game controls, and you could use them to zoom around and look at all the detail. These things were breathtaking. I cannot believe how beautiful the treasures were. There was an amazing suit of samurai armor, and there was also the Golden Temple, which is astonishing, and also panels from 17th century Kyoto. In fact, they were from 1617, which would be when Shakespeare was alive. That blew my mind. I spent hours in that place looking at everything in detail. If you get to this mall, I'm not kidding you, go in there and learn to manipulate those things. You will not believe how beautiful it is. It is a tiny museum, and yet it is so full of riches. I came back to Vermont, and I was walking up this little village of Los Feliz, and I decided to try Figaro Bistro. And I have to say, I have not been in an area where there were so many posers per square yard as there were in that bistro, you know. But it was fun, and the food was not that great. To be honest, I had what should have been a lovely omelet with salmon and dill. It was extremely dry. The salad was okay. So I was not thrilled with Figaro Bistro. One of the things I liked about it, I didn't try it, they did serve coffee and iced coffee in mason jars very generously. And I thought, yeah, it really did feel very much like a real European coffee house that way. The food was not what I wanted it to be. I was happy the next day because I did go back. And instead of going to Griffith Observatory, I walked the Hillhurst neighborhood, which is on Hillhurst, 2 blocks to the east and parallel to Vermont. I was told by one of my guidebooks this is a happening place. No, it wasn't. It was a big, broad boulevard. It was not very tree-shaded, and it was miserable in the heat. So I went back to Los Feliz, went to Starfish, and had yet another fabulous lunch. And they're recognizing me at Starfish. I am great with that. So that was my weekend there. You can see me continuing to carry the usual links to the LGBTQA plus lifelines and also to the community resources, things I have used to enhance my knitting and crocheting, my link tree, which has my races. I probably need to update it. And of course, the link to the USC law students' free telephone line to help people go to immigration court online instead of being arrested by ICE at the courthouse when they're trying to obey the very law ICE pretends to enforce. You can also see information about managing ICE, including the ICE Block app. You can see my calendar for the events in the Santa Clarita Valley for the Crafty Among Us, and you can see my personal calendar of days off, where I note that I have not yet included Thanksgiving, but I think I've been approved for Thanksgiving Friday. I have a lot of good time off coming up at the end of the year. I'm really happy about this. Finally, Minerva gets the last word. Mama's big monster. There she is, giant, roosting on my lap. I am still working on making her lose weight. She is angry at me, and yes, she did pee on my bed this week to punish me, I think. But I will be watching to see, is it possible it's something else, that she's having some urinary infection? It doesn't look like it so far. So there is Mama's big monster. Her automatic feeder is supposed to come today sometime, along with the spare bed cover, so that if she pees, that will absorb it instead of it going into my mattress. Thank goodness. It worked really well. And there's the big monster, and we will just see. Minerva's last word seems to be feed me or I rule this place and you better remember it. I'm not sure which. But even so, Mama's big monster does want to remind you that we are all part of a community. And that means when we support the community, we are supporting the individual. When we protect each other, we are protecting our own rights. On that happy note, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.